spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. I am your host, Brian McFadden. We are normally joined on Thursdays by my good friend Rich Jodice, a.k.a. the Pro Football Demon. He had some things come up. He was not able to come on the show today. We are still broadcasting live on his YouTube as well as ours. And when we're in a pinch and we need to call someone in off the bench to come and win the game for us, I call in my producer, Anthony Wayner, proudly sporting his Lions gear. Anthony, you got the 11 Yards podcast. You filled in on the game picks last week during the Thanksgiving holiday. Are you ready to keep the good vibes going, man?
Oh, definitely. Like always, I have some pretty big shoes to fill, so hopefully I can fill them well.
Well, we appreciate you coming on the short notice and also doing double duty because you're still the producer of the show at the end of the day. We're going to change things up because we don't have Rich, guys. We are going to be taking your fantasy questions live. I already see a few in the chat. Jay Dragon, as always, the first one to get the questions in. But because we also don't have Rich, we're expecting maybe not as many questions. We're going to go ahead and preview what we see as the top 5 games for NFL Week 13. We got some slides. We're going to go a little bit in depth, more than we do maybe on the Friday episode. We're still going to do our game picks episode tomorrow. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. Anthony, before you start the timer, since Anthony is also producing, you guys know that he's the one who stars the questions to bring them to my attention. We're just going to try to focus on the chat as it goes. We'll try to answer all the questions we can. And just bear with us. Ask them. We'll get to them. We're going to go 30 minutes unless we get enough questions from you guys. And then we promise we will extend it to an hour, making sure to finish ahead of the Thursday Night Football match. I'm ready, Anthony. Are you ready to do double duty and get this party started on a Thursday night?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
December. We're in December. It's the last month of 2022. Crazy. You know what? Let's get this party started. 30 minutes of football with Legit Football starts now. You'll see Anthony as the producer. He has to keep the timer right in front of him, but he's still doing his job. Let's jump right into, because we already have questions, and that's usually what we do here on Thursday. So let's go ahead and start answering those. We'll start with, of course, J Dragon 91. Looks like he's queued up a few as usual. Debo Samuel seems to be bothered by his still lingering hamstring. He re-injured against the Saints. Do I rest him and start either George Pickens and or Donovan Peoples-Jones, or do I start Curtis Samuel? I'll just like you're the Rich shoes, so you're going to answer first, and then I'm going to give my take.
So Donovan Peoples-Jones, he doesn't get as many receptions as he might to be a reliable fantasy starter, where George Pickens does. I think he's targeted more. George Pickens and Donovan Peoples-Jones might be a better pick over Samuel for now. But, if he's on your lineup, obviously keep him there. But for this week, maybe, and we're talking against Miami's defense too. So I'm thinking I think you should sit Samuel and start George Pickens.
I agree, and it's mainly because they play the Falcons. The Steelers have a very juicy matchup this week. The Falcons have one of the worst pass defenses in the entire NFL, and while I really like Donovan Peoples-Jones, we do not, and this is, I see your second question, Jade. We'll kind of bring that up too. We don't know what we're getting with Deshaun Watson. We know what his talent is, but this is a guy that not only hasn't played competitive football in 2 years, he hasn't practiced since the preseason. He was not allowed in the Browns facility, so he's still getting up to groove with his teammates, with the game plan, finding chemistry and synchronicity with his wide receivers. We've already seen, and this doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day, we've already seen videos of his receivers dropping his passes, but this is the kind of little details that I'm sure he'll be fine as a player. We're not talking about the personal side of it, but I don't want any part of those Browns pass catchers if I can help it. You're not really going to sit Amari Cooper, but Donovan Peoples-Jones, when you have Pickens going up against that bad Falcons secondary, that would be my start here. Debo, with the injury concern, Christian McCaffrey looks like he's fully healthy, so I think he's going to get a lot of run. And like you said, the Dolphins defense, there's so many weapons there. It's kind of hard to rely on Samuel, so I would start Pickens.
Yeah, and they're getting George Kittle more involved too. So instead of, that splitting the receptions. I think, I mean, George Kittle's going to be splitting receptions with Samuel because he's been more reliable. So I
And
agree.
Ayuk's been
Samuel.
fantastic. Ayuk has been their wide receiver one, really, for the last few weeks. Tying into the next question, this has to do with, we mentioned Deshaun Watson. In my other league, this is J Dragon 91 again. I have Donovan Jones as a flex with Rub Me Down Watson.
Oh my
Nice. Returning to his first game. Should I trust him at flex or should I start Nico Collins and or Deontay Johnson?
Deontay Johnson, I like. I think that he's reliable. He can get separation. He can get open. Um, Nico Collins, I'm not a big fan of. I know he might be a sleeper somewhere, but I don't see that happening. Definitely Deontay Johnson in this one to me. That's, I mean, it's
Well,
obvious to me.
Nico Collins is very good. The problem is that Texans offense is
Right,
just
exactly.
bad.
I just
They've
haven't
got
seen.
they weren't great under Davis Mills. Now they've got Kyle Allen. There's just nothing outside of Damian Pierce, who has a nice matchup against the Browns defense. There's just no one really to trust on that side. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I mentioned there, it's a little bit of a you're taking a risk because we don't know what we're going to get with Watson. Maybe he has a great game. Maybe Watson comes out and just slings it. Deontay Johnson, the problem with that, even though I really like his matchup, is George Pickens is the one wide receiver one
Right.
with Pickett at quarterback. You know what? I would go Johnson is the safer play. If you want to roll the dice on Donovan Jones, go for it. My inkling is towards Johnson as well. All right. Juwan Johnson wasn't at practice. J Dragon 91 again, third question. Juwan Johnson of the Saints wasn't at practice, and he's the only tight end in my 8-man league I have in my roster. Everett is available to pick up. Should I drop and pick him up or chance Juwan to start or not start?
I want you to answer this one.
Yeah, so Gerald Everett is the tight end for the Chargers. Mike Williams did not practice today. He re-injured his leg that he had an injury with that he missed earlier in the season, which means that you've got Jordan Palmer, but it's Keenan Allen, and then Gerald Everett was heavily involved at the end of the game. He caught the 2-point conversion. I would go with Everett. Juicy matchup against the Raiders this week, so I really like that as a place. Juwan Johnson, the Saints offense in general, outside of Chris Olave, hasn't been reliable. Even Alvin Kamara hasn't been that good this season. Everett has been a little bit better as far as the floor goes. I actually think this Raiders-Chargers game, like the Chargers-Cardinals game last game, is going to be one of the higher scoring games in the week. So getting a pass catcher involved there, especially with no Mike Williams, I would go ahead and pick up Everett and roll the dice on him.
I have Everett in 2 of my leagues. And he's been consistent to get points. He hasn't been explosive. He hasn't gotten 30 points, but he's consistent. You get 10 or more when he wasn't questionable or hurt. He was getting points, so I'd go with Everett as well.
David, we are going to one of the 5 games. We're going to preview the top 5 games, and one of those, not surprisingly, is the 49ers-Dolphins game that I will be at. Very excited
That's cool.
to be at that game in person. We will talk about that shortly. Looks like we got a handful of one other question, and then we will jump into the game previews. Takedo Luna, always nice to see you in the chat. Who will finish the season with more touchdowns, Mike White or Russell Wilson?
Mike White.
He's already caught him almost. He had three touchdowns last week, and Russell has 7 or 8. I mean, do the math, right?
I'm Pro Football Demon today. I'm gonna say Mike White. Go Jets.
There you go.
I think it's going to surpass Russell Wilson. He's just awful. And Mike White, he's trying to take.
I think I could pass Russell Wilson as a quarterback in the NFL with one of these better teams. But yeah, I mean, White just fits so well in that Mike LaFleur offense, that Shanahan offense, that get the ball out quick into your playmakers. And guess what? The Jets have playmakers. Elijah Moore scored a touchdown. Remember him? He was like everybody's sleeper, including mine, coming into the season. Garrett Wilson is now I think, 3rd place in the odds for Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. You've just got lots of talent, and Mike White he knows where to get the ball, gets it to them, and lets them do the work. That was something that Zach Wilson really struggled with. So I don't think it's going to take long for Mike White to pass him, and this isn't a joke. We're saying Mike White here. All right, and David, in reference to Jay Dragon's earlier question, said he's sitting Debo this weekend. Right, unless you don't have better options, Debo, a little bit of a risky play, especially because he did not practice today at all. It's Thursday. When it's that late in the week and they're not practicing, not even limited, that's concerning.
I mean, even if he does play, he's going to only play like maybe one. one play a drive. He's going to be very limited. You're not going to get a lot of fantasy points with that limited play.
Right, correct. So let's go ahead and dive into, guys, we went ahead and picked the top 5 games. We still have our game pick show tomorrow, Friday, where I, with Tanner Kern from Cold Hard Football Facts, will preview and pick all the games for Sunday and Monday night against the spread and straight up. But we thought for today, without Rich, we would just dive into the top 5 games a little bit more in depth. So let's go ahead and bring up probably the game of the week, and that is the Chiefs at the Bengals. Now, this graphic, I took this from Football Outsiders, who does all the DVOA metrics. You guys have heard me mention DVOA, so I thought it'd be nice to have a graphic up. For some reason, when they do their matchups, the ad is reversed. So the team on the left is at home. So that is a Cincinnati home game. The spread, I think, is 2.5 points for Kansas City. As we bring up the graphics, I want to turn it over to you first, Anthony, and then we'll dive into some of the more advanced metrics. But your high-level thoughts on Chiefs at Bengals.
Yeah, I think with Jamar Chase being out still, he does have a very good talent in the receivers that are playing. And so it stands a chance against the Kansas City secondary. Definitely, they're going to score. It's going to be maybe 50 points over. I'm going to call that right now because Patrick Mahomes is going to be on the other side balling it out. So I think that's going to be high scoring. It's going to be a tennis match, but I do think Kansas City will find a way to win. It's going to be a revenge game, and I think they're going to pull it off.
I think Vegas has this as the highest projected point total of the week. I think the over-under is...
I'm not surprised.
51 or 52.
Oh, it's so close.
Somewhere in that range. So I think you're spot on there. This is a rematch of the AFC Championship game where the Chiefs got out to such a big lead and then just crumbled in the second half, and Joe Burrow led the Bengals to the Super Bowl. So here's some metrics. So what you're going to see here on the screen is the percentage is total DVOA. That means how much they add above an average team. So a positive DVOA is good. A negative DVOA is bad, except for a defense. Defense, you want a negative DVOA because that's what you're taking away from the other team.
Right.
So you'll see the Bengals number 6 overall in DVOA, Chiefs number 5 overall. So kind of neck and neck right there. If you see some of the more advanced stuff, you can see the offense, Kansas City number 1 in DVOA. Cincinnati number 7 in offense. Cincinnati is number 12 in defensive DVOA. Kansas City number 18. The Chiefs are about middle of the road. We don't have this up there, but they're middle of the road in rush defense. Pretty good top 10, I think 7 or 8 in pass defense. So they're a little bit better against the pass than against the run. Kansas City 18th in both, so they're pretty even. You can see some of the red zone stuff. Kansas City offense number 11 in red zone offense, where the the Bengals defense is number 9. And then the Bengals offense is number 3 in red zone offense, and the Chiefs defense is number 20. So if you're actually just looking at these advanced metrics, there is a slight advantage to Cincinnati, right? Because they both have, Kansas City has a better offense, sure. But we know the Bengals can score. Jamar Chase says he's back this week. Joe Mixon looked like he's going to be back this week. But there's a fair enough difference, and Bengals actually have a top 7 pass defense, whereas the Chiefs are 18 in both. So I feel like there's some susceptibility there. You can move the ball on Kansas City. How do you see that playing out?
I think it's going to go down to the end of the game. And so it's going to be whatever team can play in a high-pressure situation and score in that high-pressure situation. And in this case, with the better offense being Kansas City, I think that Kansas City will be able to score when they need to. And, I mean, it's going to come down to which defense can stop which offense. And I think it's going to be a defense versus offense game. It's going to be flip-flopped. It's going to be KC, then Cincinnati, and it's going to be Cincinnati, KC. I think it's going to be like that. So it's going to come down to the end. And with the better DVOA with Kansas City, I think they're going to take it. And I think stats and these numbers are just going to prove that.
Yeah, it's hard not to believe in Kansas City right now. I am, I'm going to save my picks for tomorrow because that's what the pick show is for.
Right.
But I like how this sets up. I'm excited to watch this game. There's been a lot of trash talking on both sides. You had safety Justin Reed calling out Hayden Hurst. I think he didn't even remember his name. He just said number 88 for the Bengals, and so Hayden Hurst had took issue with that. But like I said, hey, rematch of the AFC Championship from last year. Two great offenses, two top 10 offenses. and two teams that a lot of people had competing to win the AFC and going to the Super Bowl this year. So excited to see this one. Do you want to make a pick? Because you won't be on the Game Pick show. Do you want to go? You can make your pick, and then everybody can tune in tomorrow for my picks. How about that?
Yeah, okay. So I do have Kansas City winning this. I think with Travis Kelce being as healthy as ever. In the red zone is where it's going to be most important, I think, because of how both of these defenses are performing. So, and Travis Kelce is dominant in the red zone. So you give it to Kelce, you score, and I think it's going to happen just like that. And Kansas City is going to take the win and cover.
All right. You heard it here first. That is not the one I want to go to. Let me see. Which one? There we go. So I'm going to go to this game next because we have a question in the chat about the Jets. Takedo Luna, could you see the Jets actively seeking Derek Carr or another starter at quarterback?
Ooh, it depends on how Mike White does. If Mike White has starter capabilities, he will get that starting job, and they'll stick with it until he doesn't anymore. I think that there are other teams that Derek Carr better suits, and New York is not one of them.
Yeah, I think the important thing to take away here is that I do not believe it will be Zach Wilson. There will be a different starting quarterback. If White can impress for the rest of the season and show that he can do what he did against, let's be fair, one of the worst defenses in the NFL right now in the Bears last weekend, if he can do that going forward, Minnesota this week, we're going to talk about this game in a minute, then I think he could be in a position to take the starting job next year. Otherwise, yes, I think we could be looking at a veteran. There's been talk of Tom Brady. What if Jimmy G, right? If they want to finally give the reins to Trey Lance, depending on how the Niners season ends, Derek Carr, right? There seems to be a disconnect there. Josh McDaniels didn't. Maybe he's going to want to draft a rookie quarterback. They still have their first round pick, the Raiders. They traded away an alternate first round pick to get Devontae Adams, but they still have their own. So if the Raiders can kind of keep a top 10 pick, they could get one of these top quarterbacks coming out. But if not, then they could be seeking a veteran here. So Derek Carr's a good quarterback when stuff's good around him. We've seen him be a top 10 quarterback. He has that capability. Yes. If I'm Robert Saleh, I wouldn't mind looking at a guy like that. But you know what? That's next season. I just wanted to address that question. Let's go ahead and talk about the
we have
Vikings.
About 4 seconds till halftime here. So if you want,
we're not going to do halftime. No halftime.
We're not going to do halftime. No halftime. All right, sounds good.
I'm calling an audible. So
cool. All
right. No Rich. We're changing things up on the fly here. Perfect. All right, so we've got the Minnesota Vikings at home taking on the New York Jets. The Vikings are favored on this, which is I guess record oriented. So I think the Vikings are 8-2, Jets 7-4. Vikings, they did win on Thursday, Thanksgiving night against the Patriots. They were able to eke out a win, but they got absolutely manhandled 40-3 against the Cowboys the week before. The Jets, past the Zach Wilson era, dominated the Bears with Mike White last week. They have a top 5 defense. Let's dive into here. You can see this is one of the interesting things. This is why DVA is, and some of these advanced metrics really paint a picture. I've been saying all year that I thought the Vikings were playing better than their team, better than they should be, right? They didn't necessarily look, they're squeaking out wins, which is good. Hey, a good team needs to win these close games. I kept picking them to lose, and I kept getting it wrong. I finally got it right with the Cowboys. I picked them to lose again last week to the Patriots, and the Patriots almost had it. They're a Hunter Henry touchdown away, called back from doing that, but 22nd in overall DVOA. That means they're 9% below what an average team should be doing in the 2022 season. Meanwhile, you got the Jets at number 9 DVOA. High-level thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I want you to explain to me real fast because I don't know what I'm looking at. Number 22, everything on this slide right here shows that Minnesota is not a good team. So what's going on here? I mean, are the Vikings really that bad?
Well, here's the thing. If you look at I think the defense is their biggest weakness. Their offense is very, for the most part, I mean, Justin Jefferson's otherworldly. Like he single-handedly kept them in that Bills game and allowed them to win. And it was a Josh Allen fumble that ultimately did them in. But without Jefferson making insane catches, they're not in that game. You've seen Kirk Cousins have a more willingness to just throw it up to Jefferson. Like this is a superstar effect. The problem with that is the few games where he has been shut down, and it is possible. It's not easy, but it is possible. Those are the games they have struggled in. Diggs for the Cowboys, Trevon Diggs shut him down. He had, I think, 2 or 3 catches, and they lost by 37 points.
Jeff Okudah with the Lions completely shut down Justin Jefferson. He got like 2 receptions, and they struggled in that game. You're absolutely right. I think my thoughts are, you stop Justin Jefferson, you stop Minnesota, and if the Jets can figure out how to do that, then the Jets will definitely come up on top here, because you're right, it's a superstar effect. The DVOA information here kind of shows that that's what's going on. You take Justin Jefferson out of the picture, I think you take most of Minnesota's offense out of the picture.
Yeah, I'm bringing up the spread because I think Minnesota's favored by 2.5. Let's see.
Even their run game has been struggling a little bit. How are the Jets against the run? I don't remember.
3.5. Vikings favored by 3.5 points. Yeah, that I don't get. David Morazzo says Vikings defense has been poor. Not being able to stop the run down the stretch will hurt them. Absolutely. And MJ23 mentions Zonovan Knight, who I was high on.
I just picked him up out of waivers. I just picked him up this morning.
He was one of the, so what I like to do when I'm, eyeing rookies, especially in my dynasty leagues, is I'm looking at some tape, I'm reading articles, I'm reading evaluations, and Zonovan Knight was one of the guys that was on my target list. He landed in a situation behind Breece Hall, behind Michael Carter, where I didn't think he was going to get much reps, so I didn't draft him. But I really liked him coming out of North Carolina State. We really saw what he was able to do last week on this Jets offense. Michael Carter was banged up. James Robinson was inactive for some reason. I actually haven't seen much about why he was inactive. But this is a team that is now functional under Mike White. And to top on, if you look at their DVOA for defense, number 4. They have the number 4 defense according to these advanced metrics in the entire NFL. And their offense is actually better than the Vikings offense. They're about the same, 18th versus 20th. But that's the big difference. 23rd defense. The Vikings are 25th in the red zone. So it's not just overall defense. They're actually slightly worse in the red zone than they are overall DVOA. Jets offense in the red zone, 26. So that kind of evens out. Minnesota offense, 19th in the red zone. That's not great. Jets defense, 10th. So I think the ultimate thing here is the Jets have a top 5 defense. They're able to get to the quarterback. Sauce Gardner has been one of the top cornerbacks in the entire NFL, even as a rookie. If he is able to shut down Justin Jefferson, I know Thielen scored the winning touchdown. Hawkinson's been a nice addition, but neither one of them are Jefferson. Neither one of them can single-handedly change the game the way Jefferson does. Maybe Thielen could, 5 years ago. But that is the difference here. I really like the Jets in this game. I like if they had Zach Wilson, I probably wouldn't feel that way because you can rely on him to do some stupid stuff. But I think they're good enough, especially Gardner is good enough to at least limit Jefferson. You're going to need Dalvin Cook to go off to keep yourself competitive.
This game on paper seems really evenly matched. If you talk about the quarterback situation, the receivers, and both defenses. And I think that the Jets have the capabilities of taking down the Vikings because I think it's going to be very back and forth. And then there's going to be not that many scoring. Not that many scoring. Not that much
scoring. Not that much good English.
Not that many points scored. So I think that the defenses are going to make or break this game.
All right, make your pick real quick and we'll go on to the next one.
I got to say the Jets cover and win.
Well, I mean, if they win, they cover because they're...
Right.
Oh, I guess if they're covering, but they might not win. Okay, gotcha. All right, let's go to my Miami Dolphins to Levi Stadium to take on the San Francisco 49ers. I was supposed to go to this game in 2020. I just moved to the Bay Area. The Dolphins were coming to Levi Stadium, and something called COVID happened, and I didn't get to see it. I've gone to 2 49ers games since I moved here, but this will be the first time I've seen Miami here in the Bay Area. So I'm excited for this. Let's dive into this a little bit. Similar to Chiefs Bengals in that the Vikings are number 7 overall in DVOA. The Dolphins are number 8 in overall. Dive into some of those metrics. Dolphins had the number 2 offense in DVOA behind only the Chiefs. If you put Tua in every game, because remember, he missed half the Bengals game because he left that game with a concussion, and then he missed the 2 games after that. Those are the 3 games they lost. Every game that Tua has started and finished, they've won. and they would be the number one offense in the NFL, just to show you how good they are. Mike McDaniel coming from San Francisco, right? He was the offensive coordinator for this 49ers team last year. You've got Jeff Wilson from the 49ers. You've got Raheem Mostert. You've got Trent Sherfield. This is basically like 49ers South, yeah, Southeast, if you want to call it that. Yeah. Quick overview, high level of this game, Anthony.
I think Miami is connecting better on offense, where San Francisco's kind of just gaining their footing. Their defense not allowing a score in the last 4 games in the second half. That's
not even a field goal.
I know. That's going to break, I think, this week, because Miami's going to score at least a field goal, if not many touchdowns, because I think Miami will take the lead early because they have, I think, in my opinion, better talent, and McDaniel is a hell of a coach.
One thing to mention, David, I've got it up in the chat here, but rain is expected. I live in the Bay Area. It's supposed to rain. It rained a lot today, which is, we don't see that much here. It's supposed to rain. Last I checked, it was supposed to rain Sunday morning and then be cloudy. But if it does rain, that is something that could affect the passing game. That's something to keep an eye on here.
Could McDaniel's connection with the 49ers have an advantage factor where he can kind of read what they're trying to do and then like kind of know how to stop it? And I think that's something to think about, but at the same time, it's a completely different regime, I think, in San Francisco. Some things might have changed up a lot.
I don't think it's changed much. I think there's the familiarity angle is interesting because not only does McDaniel, David says McDaniel worked for Shanahan 14 seasons.
That's a lot.
But they know how each other think. They intimately, at this point, having worked with each other for over a decade. My biggest concern in this game on the Dolphins side is that the 49ers defense has had 6 years of Shanahan to know how to defend. They practice against this style of offense. The Dolphins defense has only been doing this for this season alone, and the Dolphins defense is playing much better, but they had a lot of struggles early in the year. I think that's the biggest difference here is the Dolphins defense has only recently started playing well, and they don't have as much familiarity as the Niners defense. D'Amico Ryans, they go up against the Shanahan offense every day, and they have for the last few years. I think that brings an advantage. Fred Warner is great over the middle of the field, and that's where the Dolphins have strived. They actually, Tua leads the NFL. I think he has almost twice as many strong completions over the middle third of the field. It's like the 10 to 19 yard range than any other quarterback. But that's where Fred Warner really shines. That's where having a coverage linebacker like that can really come in handy. So let's look at some of the advanced metrics. San Francisco, number 10 overall offense. I think a lot of that has been since the CMC trade, which is great to see. Dolphins, 17th DVOA defense. That's climbed. It was in the mid-20s, so they have been playing much better football lately. San Francisco, number 5 overall DVOA. Here's another point. Both starting tackles are questionable to play in this game for the Dolphins. Teron Armstead, the star left tackle, left last game with a pec injury. And then Jackson on the other side also left. As soon as Armstead came out of the game, Tua got sacked like 3 times. And you're going up against Nick Bosa and this devastating 49ers pass rush. That's something to keep an eye on here.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if Tua can... I think there's a stat somewhere about Tua's top 5 in like release time. And with the pass rush, like the 49ers, he's going to have that release time where he can get the ball out quick enough to Hill or Waddle. And I think that if he can successfully do that, then he will be able to get down the field and score. And like I said, get the lead early and just let the defense take care of the rest. Jimmy G is a good quarterback. I think he has a lot to prove still. But it's going to be hard to prove that against Miami's defense, where Tua, I think, has gained his rhythm with his receivers. I think that their connection and their chemistry is probably one of the best in the league, probably one of the better quarterback wide receiver trios. So, I mean, and if I had to predict, I think the Dolphins are going to win just because of the offense. Okay. And they're against a tough defense, but if they can just air it out and beat that defense, which I think they are fully capable of, I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be really fun to watch this play out live. And I envy you. I'm so jealous because this is going to be an exciting game.
I'm going to be there with John Chapman of 49ers Rush. Super excited. We're going to be tailgating ahead of time. I think this is going to come down to because you can't hold the ball in general against this Niners defense, but especially with missing your starting tackles, you're going to have to get the ball out super quick, and McDaniel's going to have some sort of surprise. for Shanahan and for D'Amico Ryan, something that, maybe like a tendency breaker.
Right, you don't want to be predictable at all.
Takeda says I paid you for that prediction.
Why are you telling everybody?
I pay him for the job he does. I do not pay him to predict the Dolphins by any means, but it's nice to hear. Tune in tomorrow, guys, if you want to see which of these teams I pick. All right, let's go on to Eagles, Titans. So once again, this is reverse. So it's in Philadelphia. Eagles with that decisive win over the Packers. Titans came up short 20-16 against the Bengals. Eagles number 3 in overall DVOA, where the Titans are number 13. Titans 19 in offense and 10th in defense. Eagles number 3 in offense, number 6 in defense.
Yeah, I'm looking at the special teams. It's minus 1.7% at number 24. I don't know why that caught my eye, because a lot of times that could be the deciding factor in games. But I mean, Philadelphia's overall just been playing really good, and the Titans have kind of just found ways to win. Where Philadelphia was, a lot of what they do is predictable. You're like, oh, they're going to score here. They're going to make this field goal. They're going to stop them on defense. You can kind of make these calls on with Tennessee. It's like, what's going to happen here? Are they going to score? Are they going to even make it to the red zone on this drive? And I think that it's more unpredictable when the Titans are playing. Where the Eagles play, you're like, they're going to succeed every time. And I think it's proven that they're, number 3, 26.9% total DVOA versus number 13. I think that it's kind of decided already just because of that fact, is we know that Philadelphia can succeed.
Well, here's something to keep in mind. The Washington Commanders, who we're going to preview quickly the Giants-Commanders game next, they beat this Eagles team by running the ball like 40 times, controlling the clock, the time of possession, and keeping Jalen Hurts and the offense off the field. The Titans love to run the ball more than probably any other team in the NFL, except maybe the Eagles. On the other side of the ball, the Titans have one of the best run defenses in the NFL. It's going to force Hurts to win with his arm. I actually like the setup for the Titans here. I think if they can get Henry going, keep the possessions limited for Philadelphia, they've got a good shot in this game. I don't think it's as simple as 3 versus 13. Make a quick prediction. I want to go to Giants-Commanders before we wrap up.
I think the Titans are going to cover, but the Eagles are going to win. I think it's going to.
By the way, 5.5 points. I think, if I'm correct, which is ridiculous. Yeah, 5.5. Eagles 5.5. I don't know. I think
they're going to win by a field goal, but because you're right, it's going to be hard to stop the Titans rushing, but they're going to be able to score enough points to keep up with Derrick Henry.
All right, why don't you put one more minute on that timer? We will preview the Commanders at the Giants. I have this on there. You look at their DVOA, it's not that impressive, but these teams are both in the playoffs right now. The entire NFC East is in the playoffs. You've got Washington, won 5 of their last 6 under Taylor Heineke at number 17 in DVOA. The Giants have lost their last 2 after a super hot start. They're still 7-3, though, at number 21 in DVOA. Another one of those teams that you start to see, this is where they should be. How do you like this one? And then finish up with the pick.
I think the Washington Commanders need to realize that Taylor Heineke is their saving grace, that he is their prodigal son, because he's been playing a lot better than the quarterbacks that they start, like Carson Wentz. They've been beating teams. They even beat the Eagles. I think that this is an opportunity for Washington to prove that they're for real and beat the Giants. The Giants have been struggling just a little bit, and Washington's going to capitalize on that.
All right, and I'm not going to take any more of the time because I got a little surprise for you, Anthony. It's not a top 5 game, but I wanted to bring up your Lions hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Lions coming up just short, after 3 wins in a row prior, almost beating the Bills. Jacksonville Jaguars coming down from 10 points down with that ballsy 2-point conversion to beat the Baltimore Ravens. I'm actually really excited about this game. I actually also think this will be one of the top scoring games between this one, Chargers, Raiders, and Bengals, Chiefs. I think we're going to have some nice high-scoring affairs. You got number 16 DVOA for your Lions, number 18 for the Jags. Take a look at this, and then make a pick for your Detroit Lions.
Hey, it's not as bad as I was expecting it could be. We both know that this team's for real, that they are a good football team. It's really just about the play calling, clock management, and really what comes down to the end. I'm going to have to say...
Look how similar these are. So you got Jacksonville offense at 14, Detroit at 12, Detroit defense at 24, Jacksonville defense at 26. It's like 16 versus 8. This is very evenly matched as far as the metrics go.
Yeah, this is definitely a brick to brick matchup. I think that Detroit is going to win. I think that they want to prove that they almost beat the Bills. It really just came down to the end. I think they're going to beat the Jaguars by at least one touchdown. So I think that they're going to go airing it out. Jaguars are going to score right at the end of the game in garbage time. But yeah, the Lions are going to win this.
Vegas basically has this as a coin flip. The line that I have on the site that I use, 0.5 for Jacksonville. A half a point.
A half a point.
Yeah, so it's basically a coin flip. But you're saying they're going to win by a touchdown.
I do. I just think that they really gained their footing, and Dan Campbell is he's figuring out how to win now, and this is a really good opportunity for Detroit to start a new winning streak, to possibly make a run for the playoffs, because we're in the hunt. I know it's the record's not pretty, but there's still a lot of weeks to go. And I mean, it's a very competitive season right now with the playoff pictures. So I think Detroit.
If you lose and the Vikings win the NFC North in Week 13. So yeah, no pressure on. Maybe you can at least make a run at the wild
seventh seed.
There you go. Right now, the Commanders are the 7th seed. I mean, you guys can catch them. David Morazzo in the chat. Lions are heating up. Lions win all day. That offense has really surprised me.
Oh, it's amazing.
And Takeda, the Lions need defensive help and another wide receiver or a tight end. On the wide receiver front, we're getting close to Jameson Williams.
Jameson Williams, number 9.
There you go.
I'm so excited. This is a Stafford jersey, but it's still number 9. So I'm really excited about Jameson Williams coming in, because I think he has the speed. The speed threat, kind of like a Golden Tate kind of vibe, but he's a little bit bigger. And so it's almost like
he's faster than Golden Tate.
He's faster than Golden Tate, but he's probably the fastest we've had since or for a while now. So I think Jameson Williams is going to really pop off, and then definitely be ready for next season. I'm more excited about next season when it comes to Williams, because right now I think we're going to be easing him in slowly, but we still do have receivers. Chark's back. We have him on Ross St. Brown. Even Brock Wright is showing up as a tight end. So this offense is definitely gaining its footing, and I think they're going to be looking really good.
Well, I hope that your Lions win tomorrow. I will give you a preview of tomorrow. I am picking the Lions to win this game. That's the one pick I'll give you. I feel good about the way they've been playing on the defensive side of the ball as well. Aiden Hutchinson really starting to come into
They've been doing a lot better defensively, yeah.
He was the NFC Defensive Rookie of the Month for November. Amon-Ra St. Brown is playing great. Jamal Williams, you got to love it. So I'm picking the Lions. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in this week. We mixed it up a little bit. We'll let you guys know if we switch things up next week. Trying to get Rich on Thursdays, but he's got a lot of stuff going on. Make sure to tune in tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, for my game picks. Go through all the picks with Tanner Kern from Cold Hard Football Facts, against the spread and straight up. And if you guys have any last-second fantasy questions, put them in there. Anthony picking the Dolphins, and Brian picks the Lions. Maybe we're just that simpatico right now, and that's all it comes down to. We've been working together for almost 2 years now, Anthony. So yeah, there you go. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Subscribe and like and do all that fun stuff if this is your first time listening or watching. Anthony, thank you for filling in for Rich. Always a pleasure to have you in front of the screen as well as behind. Thanks, guys, again for watching and hanging out in the chat. This has been 30 Minutes of Football with legit football. Oh, by the way, Bills to win and cover tonight.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Bills win and cover.
That's all the preview we need. Thank you, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Go Lions.
That's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner.